Week 5, Day 3, Morning Nourishment. Ephesians chapter 2, 1 and 4. And you, though dead in your offenses and sins, but God, being rich in mercy, because of his great love, with which he loved us. Hebrews 4:16. Let us therefore come forward with boldness to the throne of grace, that we may receive mercy and find grace for timely help. Mercy is the most far-reaching of God's attributes. Mercy goes further than grace. God's love does not reach as far as his grace, and his grace does not reach as far as his mercy. If I am in a good condition, and my standing matches yours, and you give me a gift, that is grace. If I come to you as your dear friend, and you give me a gift, that is grace. However, if I am a poor, unclean beggar, unable to do anything for myself, and you give me a gift, that is mercy. This illustrates the fact that God's mercy is more far-reaching than his grace. According to our nature condition, we were far removed from God, totally unworthy of his grace. We were eligible only to receive his mercy. Today's reading. It is God's mercy that has reached us. None of us was in a condition that corresponded to his grace. God's mercy has brought us into his grace. How we need to realize this and worship God for his mercy. Even now, after being saved and having shared in the riches of God's life, we still, in some ways, are in a condition that needs God's mercy to reach us. This is the reason Hebrews 4:16 says that first we need to receive mercy, and then we can find grace for timely help. Oh, how much we need God's mercy! We should treasure his mercy as much as we appreciate his grace. It is always God's mercy that qualifies us to participate in his grace. In Romans 9:16, Paul says that it is not of him who wills, nor of him who runs, but of God who shows mercy. Our concept is that the one who wills will gain what he wills to obtain, and that the one who runs will gain what he runs after. If this were the case, then God's selection would be according to our effort and labor. But it is not so. On the contrary, God's selection is of God, who shows mercy. We do not need to will or to run, for God has mercy on us. If we know God's mercy, we shall not put our trust in our effort. Neither shall we be disappointed by our failures. The hope for our rich condition is in God's mercy. Romans 11:32 says, For God has shut up all in disobedience, that he might show mercy to all. Man's disobedience affords God's mercy an opportunity, and God's mercy brings man salvation. How marvelous is God's mercy! God's mercy and His grace are both the expression of His love. When we are in a pitiful condition, His mercy reaches us and brings us into a state where He is able to favor us with His grace. Luke 15:20-24 says that when the father saw the prodigal son returning, he had compassion on him. This is the deeper mercy, an expression of the father's affectionate love. Then the father clothed his son with the best robe and fed him with the fatted calf. This is grace, which also manifests the Father's love. God's mercy reaches further than His grace, bridging the gap between us and God's grace. Often, because of our pitiful condition, we need to receive mercy before we can find grace. We come to the throne of grace like beggars, in somewhat the same condition as was the prodigal son when he came to his father. A beggar like a prodigal needs mercy. When we come to the throne of grace, we may have the sense that we are pitiful and say, "Father, I am not worthy of anything." But the Father may say, "You are unworthy, but I am merciful. My mercy reaches you and qualifies you to receive my favor. My mercy brings me to you, that I may clothe you with the best robe." God's mercy is always available to us. God's love does not reach as far as His grace, and His grace does not reach as far as His mercy. Man's disobedience affords God's mercy an opportunity. That I may clothe you with the best robe